In May of 2011, then US President Barack Obama was facing a host of issues both at home and abroad. He was up against the so-called birther controversy, which alleged that Obama was not born in the United States and hence he was ineligible to be president. He was also trying to push through his ambitious healthcare program dubbed Obamacare. He was also facing heat from the Republicans on the immigrants issue. And then suddenly, on this May night, Obama addressed the nation and announced to the world,
"Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children."
That one act changed Obama's fortunes. It changed the course of his presidency. It set him on course to win a second term. In a blast from the past, the United States this week announced that it had killed Al-Qaeda leader Ayman Al-Zawahiri in a drone strike in Afghanistan.
On Saturday, at my direction, the United States successfully concluded an airstrike in Kabul, Afghanistan that killed the emir of Al-Qaeda, Ayman Al-Zawahiri.
This is one of the last remaining outstanding scores of revenge that's been settled as a fallout of the September 11 attacks. The killing was seized upon by President Joe Biden as validation of his promise that Afghanistan will not be used as a safe haven for terrorists. Remember, America ended its longest war in Afghanistan last year, and the timing could not be more pertinent, because exactly this month last year, Joe Biden oversaw what many thought was a botched-up withdrawal. Many felt that this is what paved the way for one of the most dreaded terror outfits to take over a country as big and as important as Afghanistan. But the big question now is, will this killing of Ayman al-Zawahiri bolster Joe Biden's sagging presidency? Will he get a bump up, just like Obama did after the Osama bin Laden killing 10 years ago? For a good 20 years after the cataclysmic events of the 9/11 attacks, America's guiding principle in its foreign policy was finding terrorists who attacked the country wherever they were hiding. It was the entire organizing principle of Washington's approach to the rest of the world. The news this week of Ayman al-Zawahiri's killing was yet another mission accomplished moment for the US. Just like we got him after capturing Saddam Hussein in 2003, and of course the famous Obama speech from the Oval Office after the death of Osama bin Laden. There is deep symbolism in the killing of Ayman al-Zawahiri. He was an Egyptian surgeon who turned into a radical Islamic ideologue. He was wanted by the United States for years, even before the September 11 attacks on New York. Zawahiri was indicted by the FBI for his alleged role in the bombing of US embassies in Kenya and Tanzania in 1998. Much before the 9/11 attacks, these two attacks on US missions in Africa heralded a new age of Al-Qaeda terrorism that was directed against American citizens. Zawahiri had a key role in the bombing of the USS Cole in Yemen in the year 2000. Successive US presidents had vowed to bring the leaders of bin Laden's terrorist network to justice, and Biden is the latest to have done so. It is one of the few common threads in recent US foreign policy, from Clinton to Bush to Obama, Trump, and now, of course, Joe Biden. If Zawahiri lacked the kind of charisma and mobilizing power that a bin Laden had, his influence and organization of the Al-Qaeda resulted in huge damage to American people and to American assets around the world. His demise validates a long-held American promise to pursue its enemies to the end of the earth.
Now, justice has been delivered, and this terrorist leader is no more. People around the world no longer need to fear the vicious and determined killer.
That is how Joe Biden described the killing of Zawahiri from an address from the White House overlooking the South Lawns. In many ways, Zawahiri's killing bookends the operation to go after bin Laden. That's according to former CIA Director and Defense Secretary Leon Panetta. He added that the loss of Zawahiri means that Al-Qaeda no longer has the leadership structure to pose a threat to the United States. More immediately, the death of Zawahiri represents a significant moment for Biden and his wobbling presidency. It may go some way to purge the painful memories of what was a chaotic US withdrawal from Afghanistan exactly a year ago. It may help the administration recast any negative coverage during the anniversary of that botched withdrawal. And more importantly, this strike backs up Joe Biden's claim to be able to target American enemies in Afghanistan from over the horizon. Now, this was part of his argument last year that America no longer needs to maintain large armies on foreign lands. While Zawahiri was unable to reconstitute the Al-Qaeda after the death of bin Laden, the circumstances of his death stand as a warning to other terrorist groups in Afghanistan. However, the fact that Zawahiri was apparently killed in an attack on a house right in the heart of Kabul raises some very real concerns. How is it that Afghanistan, which is now back under the control of the Taliban, is yet again harboring Al-Qaeda? Remember, the Taliban had committed, as per the Doha Accord, that they will not give sanctuary to any terrorist group, naming particularly Al-Qaeda. The killing of Zawahiri in the heart of Kabul negates that promise. Something that its de facto leader Sirajuddin Haqqani has gone to great lengths to deny. But it also shows that the United States even today has intelligence capabilities in Afghanistan despite the exit of American diplomats and military. Biden chose the more optimistic takeaway, arguing the operation to kill Zawahiri proved his promise that he would not allow Afghanistan to become a safe haven for terrorists. Now, normally, presidents don't take life and death decisions about national security based on their own approval ratings. But it is also a fact that they all operate in a political context because of the position that they occupy, which is the leader of the free world, arguably the most powerful political office in the world. There is no doubt that Joe Biden could benefit incrementally from his commander-in-chief moment on television. Biden reporting from the White House to American citizens in the country and around the world about the killing of an enemy is an extremely political act, which could help him in the upcoming midterms. The drone strike in Kabul came even as Biden was being assailed by the Republicans as weak and incapable. During the US departure from Afghanistan last year, Biden's reputation as a safe pair of hands on foreign policy took a big hit. Americans watched scenes of desperate Afghan refugees falling to their deaths from departing American planes. The US military also admitted to a botched drone strike that killed 10 Afghan civilians, including 7 children. But it's also unlikely that Zawahiri's killing will do much to alter the fate of the Democrats in the November midterm elections. There are far more basic livelihood issues that Americans are concerned about right now. There are increasing signs that the American economy could plunge into recession. There was also months of punishingly high inflation, and all of this on the back of very threatening moves between China and Taiwan on the back of Nancy Pelosi's visit to the island nation. And this is not to forget the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, which has now reached its 6th month. Foreign policy victories can be rather fleeting, and decapitating terror groups no longer brings the kind of political payoff that it did when then President George W. Bush was keeping score in the years after 9/11. Joe Biden will be strictly hoping otherwise. He will be hoping that this foreign policy victory will go a long way in ensuring that the Democrats still have some semblance of control over the US government. But more important than any of this is the fact that American foreign policy itself seems to have moved on from the threat of radical Islamist terror that was posed by groups like Al-Qaeda and Daesh. America waged a war on terror for 20 years, The bigger threat that America is facing right now, and perhaps for the foreseeable future, comes from China. Which is why the National Security Council Secretariat, which is the highest decision-making body in the US when it comes to national security affairs, has said that China and threats emanating from China will be the single biggest long-term concern for the United States.